Imagine the grandest civilizations history has ever known, mighty empires, dazzling innovations, technologies that seemed almost impossible for their time.
Yeah, truly impressive stuff.
But what if their very strengths, the things that made them so powerful, so impressive, also carried the hidden seeds of their own destruction?
Mm-hmm.
And what if maybe, just maybe, we are living through a really similar moment right now?
Sobering thought, isn't it?
It really is. Welcome, everyone, to a bold new take on book coverage with this extended analysis. We're aiming to go beyond just a simple summary, though don't worry, we do include that too.
Right.
Our mission here is really to examine how an author like Luke Kemp today shapes their argument, how they build influence, and ultimately, how they earn or perhaps sometimes lose your trust.
It's about equipping you with the tools, really.
Exactly. Tools to read with sharper insight and hopefully greater discernment. So if you're wondering, should I read this book? This should definitely help you decide.
And it's also great for aspiring writers, seeing how compelling arguments are built.
Absolutely. And look, if you find this expanded format valuable, we'd genuinely love to hear from you. Your feedback is what helps us shape future content.
Definitely. And just to add another layer here, you are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation. We're powered by Google's NotebookLM, which allows for, well, deeper and maybe more dynamic book analysis. Today, we're diving into Luke Kemp's, I think, quite groundbreaking new book, Goliath's Curse, The History and Future of Societal Collapse.
Quite a title.
It is. And it's this sweeping, evidence-driven look at why large, complex societies seem to repeatedly rise and then fall, offering some vital and, frankly, sometimes pretty unsettling lessons for us today.
Yeah, I found myself drawn in immediately, partly because Luke Kemp, well, he isn't just throwing opinions out there, is he? He's clearly a serious academic in this space. What is it about his background specifically that gives him such weight on this huge topic?
That's a great point. His credibility, his ethos is really strong. He's a senior research associate at the Center for the Study of Existential Risk at the University of Cambridge.
Okay, that sounds important.
It is. It means he's immersed daily in research on global threats, climate change, tech risks, the big stuff. He looks at the very edges of what could destabilize, human civilization.
No.
Plus, he consults for environmental and policy organizations. So he's got that practical policy-oriented side too.
Right, so it's not just theory.
Exactly. It's this blend of deep academic work and real-world application that gives him, I think, immense credibility. He bridges that gap between abstract ideas and urgent, actionable warnings. He's grappling with real future possibilities.
And the timing. Wow, the timing feels incredibly relevant, doesn't it? Released in 2025, hitting shelves when global anxieties are already, let's say, pretty high.
Oh, absolutely. The exigence, the urgency is palpable.
What's driving it, do you think?
Well, it's directly responding to this feeling many people have today. Growing concerns about widening inequality, the rise of authoritarianism, definitely the escalating climate crises, systemic risks.
The cheerful stuff.
Yeah. The book really confronts these threats head on. It's a stark counterpoint to what Kemp maybe sees as too much tech optimism, or maybe naive assumptions that our current systems are just inherently stable.
So this idea that we'll just innovate our way out of everything, he's challenging that.
Very much so. He's articulating this growing anxiety, you hear it in academia and in public discourse, about these so-called existential risks to our own civilization right now.
So his purpose isn't just historical tourism looking back at ruins. It's an alarm bell for now.
Exactly right. It's a dual purpose, inform and warn. He wants us to see collapse not as some, distant historical spectacle, but as a recurring hazard, something baked into certain kinds of large, centralized system.
Okay.
And his aim is to spark a fundamental discussion, a conversation about how society must re-engineer itself for resilience, instead of just chasing, unchecked growth all the time.
And who's he trying to reach? Is it just academics?
No, that's the interesting thing. It has broad appeal. Policymakers, for sure, academics in history, economics, risk studies, but also just general readers, people who are curious or, frankly, concerned about the future.
How does he manage that? These topics can get very dense.
His writing style is key. It's very accessible, avoids excessive jargon. He makes these incredibly complex, serious topics understandable.
Okay, so let's get into the core argument. Let's unpack Kemp's central thesis. If we boil it right down, what's the main, maybe counterintuitive point he's making in Goliath's Curse?
Okay, the core idea is that the very things that empower large civilizations, think their immense complexity, their efficient hierarchy, their centralized control, These things paradoxically become their fatal flaws over time.
Huh. So strength becomes weakness.
Precisely. Like a super sophisticated machine, powerful when it works, but maybe one tiny design flaw, something overlooked, can bring the whole thing crashing down.
Right.
Kemp points to these recurring patterns. Societies overextending themselves, the corrosive effect of inequality growing within them, and something he calls institutional sclerosis.
Institutional sclerosis. What does that mean exactly?
It's like hardening of the arteries, but for institutions.
Mm.
Systems that were once flexible and adaptive become rigid, almost fossilized. They lose the ability to change when new pressures inevitably emerge. It's not just things get old, it's that the structures built for efficiency become traps.
So it's not just getting big, it's losing agility because you're big and because of the structures you built to manage that bigness.
Exactly. And he doesn't just theorize this, he backs it up with a huge amount of historical evidence.
Yeah, talk about the scope of his research. It sounds massive.
It really is monumental. He pulls together case studies from over 440 different societies, spanning 5,000 years of history.
What?
So this isn't just picking a few convenient examples. It's a rigorous, data-heavy approach. Proper, scholarly nonfiction. By looking at such a vast range, he's trying to identify universal patterns, common mechanisms of collapse, not just unique accidents.
440 societies. That's incredible scope. How on earth does he organize all that information for the reader? What kind of journey does the book take you on?
It's structured very logically, actually. He guides you through it. Starts with these diverse historical examples, pulls out the common threads.
Okay.
Then he builds what he calls a typology of collapse, sort of categorizing the different ways societies tend to fail.
Right.
And it all culminates in prescriptive recommendations, ideas for institutional reform for now and the future.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout, the tone is, well, it's urgent, analytical, but also pragmatic. It doesn't get bogged down in jargon. He wants you to get why it happens and, crucially, what we might do about it.
Okay, now let's get into the analysis part. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. That title itself, Goliath's Curse. It's incredibly evocative. How does that metaphor really capture the core of his argument?
Oh, it's a brilliant rhetorical move. Goliath's curse just perfectly encapsulates that paradox of scale we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that the very strengths of these big, complex systems, their size, their central power, their reach become their Achilles heel, their fatal flaw.
Like the biblical Goliath.
Exactly. Massive, seemingly unbeatable, but brought down by someone small and agile. Kemp uses it to crystallize this insight. Unchecked growth without feedback loops, without ways to reform and adapt, it always carries the seeds of its own failure.
It really challenges that default assumption, doesn't it? That bigger is always better.
Fundamentally challenges it, yeah.
So it's about how bigness itself creates specific vulnerabilities. Now, Kemp uses other rhetorical tools, too. One that really stood out to me was juxtaposition. How does he use contrast to make his points?
That's a key strategy for him. He consistently contrasts Goliath, these large, often brittle, hierarchical, centralized societies, with alternatives. Things like more decentralized, democratic, maybe more egalitarian social structures.
Can you give an example?
Sure. You might contrast, say, the rigid bureaucracy of a massive empire that can't respond quickly with the adaptable local governance of a smaller, more community-focused society that can.
Ah, okay.
This recurring contrast, this framing device, it helps you, the reader, visualize the alternatives. It's not just pointing out problems, it's illustrating what more resilient systems might actually look like. It makes his calls for reform feel much more concrete.
And he's definitely trying to stir something in the reader, isn't he? It's analytical, yes, but there's a strong emotional undercurrent there. How does he create that pathos, that sense of engagement, without just being alarmist?
That's a really fine line he walks. The book is deeply analytical, grounded in evidence, but the warnings are absolutely designed to provoke concern, to start debates, stir up a sense of collective responsibility about these huge systemic risks.
How does he do it?
Well, he uses these compelling but very sober case studies of decline. Think Rome, the Maya. He doesn't sensationalize their fall. Instead, he dissects the complex, often slow-moving processes that led to it.
So the drama comes from the reality of it.
Exactly. The narratives are powerful because they're grounded in historical fact. It reinforces the emotional weight of his analysis and makes this abstract idea of societal collapse feel chillingly real and possible.
Given the gravity of it all, the logic has to be tight. How well does Kemp ground his claims in evidence build that logical appeal, the logos, and where maybe does the argument invite some debate?
His big strength is his command of evidence. The logos is strong. He doesn't just speculate. He rigorously backs up claims with those huge data sets, cross-disciplinary reviews, 5 millennia of history. You feel that historical weight.
Mm-hmm.
However, probably the most debated part is translating those historical patterns into future inevitability. Now, Kemp never says collapse is absolutely certain, but critics do point out that this leap from past patterns to future implications, it's more provocative than it is definitively predictive. He's giving us a powerful cautionary tale, backed by data, but it's still a projection, a very well-informed one, but a projection nonetheless.
Okay, that makes sense. And as we continue digging into these really complex ideas, just a quick reminder that you can find even more unique perspectives and detailed breakdowns over on Mindful Moments. That's our YouTube channel offering AI book analysis, summaries, and critiques. It's all about inspiring reflection and rational thought.
Definitely worth checking out.
So let's connect Kemp's work to the bigger picture. How does his analysis fit into, or maybe update, this long-running conversation academics have had about civilizational collapse? People like Tainter or Toynbee.
Yet we connect this to the bigger picture. Kemp's work definitely aligns with, but also significantly updates those classics. Tainter's Collapse of Complex Societies, Toynbee's huge studies.
Yeah.
They laid critical groundwork. But Kemp puts much more weight on internal factors. Things like growing inequality, the specifics of political economy. He sees those as primary drivers of collapse.
So less focus on maybe external shocks or environment alone.
He acknowledges those, but his emphasis is different, gives his analysis a more contemporary feel, connecting directly to today's debates about wealth gaps, governance failures. He's essentially saying, yes, external factors matter, but let's really zoom in on the internal stresses that make societies vulnerable in the first place.
No book tackling something this huge is going to be without challenges or potential criticisms. What were some of the constraints Kemp faced, do you think? And what critiques might someone level against his approach?
Well, a huge constraint is just distilling it all down, taking that immense complexity, 440 societies, 5,000 years, and making it readable, accessible, without being simplistic. That's a serious tightrope walk. You need scholarly rigor, but also public clarity.
Yeah, avoid being too dry or too sensational.
Exactly. And while his approach is synthetic, drawing from many fields, some critics might argue his focus on internal dynamics inequality. Institutions maybe underplays other factors in some cases.
Like what?
Like specific sudden climate shocks, maybe pandemics, or overwhelming external pressures like a massive invasion. Critics might say those deserve more weight in certain collapses. Kemp doesn't ignore them, but his main project is definitely focused on those internal vulnerabilities created by complexity and hierarchy itself.
So putting it all together, how successful is Goliath's curse in achieving what it sets out to do? Does it really deliver?
I think it absolutely succeeds in its main goal, stimulating vital debate, getting people talking about the deep roots and potential remedies for societal collapse. That blend of historical evidence, narrative power, and pragmatic warning is incredibly effective.
It's not just an academic exercise, then.
Not at all. It's a truly impactful call to think critically. It forces you to confront some pretty uncomfortable truths about our own time.
And that brings up the ethical dimension. Beyond the history and analysis, what's the ethical argument Kemp is making? What kind of reform is he pushing for?
The ethical argument woven through it is really clear and quite compelling. He's basically saying, understanding these historical patterns isn't just intellectually interesting, it carries a kind of moral imperative.
Okay.
He calls for things like greater equity, serious sustainability practices, and what he terms institutional courage from leaders and from communities.
Institutional courage, I like that phrase.
Me too. He emphasizes that reform isn't just nice to have, it's essential if we want to avoid repeating these historical cycles. He pushes for actively re-engineering societies for resilience, resisting that passive resignation that collapse might just be inevitable.
So it's a message of agency, but a realistic one.
Exactly. Agency grounded in a stark understanding of the risks.
This sounds incredibly relevant for all of us, really, just navigating the world today. Why should the average person listening right now care about Goliath's curse? What's the core value for you, the listener?
I think the core value is that it gives you, the listener, a powerful new lens, a way to look at the systems around you, your community, your country, global institutions, and spot potential fragility.
See beneath the surface a bit.
Yeah. It encourages you to demand accountability, to advocate for systemic change in what feels like an increasingly precarious time. It empowers you not just to be a passive observer, but an informed participant, someone who understands the potential trajectory and maybe, just maybe, can help influence it.
So, reflecting on all this, what does it mean for you personally right now? Consider the systems in your own life, your community, your nation. What Goliath's curse, what hidden brittleness might be silently at work beneath the surface, underneath that impressive capacity you see every day?
It's a powerful question to sit with.
It really is. To dive even deeper into Luke Kemp's vital insights, you can click the link right there on your screen for the in-depth book summary. And please, subscribe, share this analysis with someone who loves to think rationally, and maybe consider purchasing the book through the link to support the author's crucial work.
And don't forget, you can see the many genre-based book podcasts at Mindful Moments. Subscribe and nourish your mind on the go.